Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 278. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. Nearly every time I'm saying that number, I'm trying to remember it in my head. I'm not always sure exactly what number we are at, but it is the 29th of August. The month is progressing. It's closing in on Independence Day. Yeah, fireworks, people. Things nice. 278, the man says. You sure, bro? You know you have me second guessing. Is it 277? Yes, it's 278. It's 278. Don't have me second guessing like that. It's 278. We are on. Welcome, people. Welcome, people. It is my pleasure to be here. Make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok. Hit the like button over on Instagram. Share this video if you are viewing this on repeat over on YouTube. Take that algorithm, copy it, and paste it wherever you can. That's one of the best ways to send it out there. Good night, Mr. Moisture Appreciator over there on TikTok. Tonight we're talking geography to start off. That's what we're talking about to start off. And if you like the teaching and you think you'd like some teaching from me, or more particularly someone of our tutors possibly, you could head over to Mindful Education, Mindful with 2 L's _ education over there on Instagram, and hit like on that page. Message me wherever you see me if you are interested. We do offer learning pods, which are small homeschool style classes. We have them in part-time where you could send a student and they get familiar with the same small group of students. They could feel comfortable with them. We do this from preschool learning stages all the way up to CXC, and we do have it full-time starting from September. We have some full-time secondary students starting. If you are interested in that, hit us up and let's get talking. We also offer private tutoring, one-on-one tutoring for most of those CXC and KEEP subjects. If you are really struggling and you want that tutor to just sit down with you and go through it, if you are looking to repeat and you need that tutor to really figure out some of those fine nuanced areas you really struggled with, well, be sure to hit us up. Are you the principal? Listen, we aren't working necessarily with that Prussian educational model. We aren't working with the public school model necessarily that you see over in the West, because bear in mind, as I made a video about this over on Mindful Education, a video about this recently. And the reality is, many people exaggerate it to some extent, but the reality is that the educational system that we have, that we inherited, that public education system, was engineered with the intent of making loyal communist citizens and loyal soldiers. And then the Americans saw it, the industrialists over in the United States saw it and was like, wow, that's wonderful. We have the same problem in the United States, just we don't want soldiers. We don't want those loyal citizens. We need good factory workers. And some of these farmers are coming out from the rural areas and coming into the cities, and they have to work in the farms, and we want to make sure they have a rudimentary understanding of math and English, etc., so that they could work out these factory hours and be effective, nice, loyal worker bees, factory workers. And that is what the system was engineered for, and we're still seeing it to this day. So no, I'm not the principal. I am a teacher. I am the senior teacher at Mindful Education. And yeah, we have a school according to what you understand by school. And we're starting today talking about some educational aspects, how education pertains to our everyday life. We're talking geography because we had a piece of heat recently there. Whew, whew. The place was hot. Genuinely hot. The ACs were struggling. God bless that subsidized electricity bill, because I know if we had to pay that full electricity bill, and some of us who ran those ACs in every room in the house round the clock, you know, if the bill wasn't subsidized, come next year and tech bill, we would be bawling. But we have a subsidized bill over here, so you know it mightn't be that bad. But I work in a Shine Special Site Manager. Funny. Last score on max. You see, The problem with the Lasco fan inverter units, the savings pay for themselves. If you're looking for inverters, hit us up. I happen to know someone that supplies and does HVAC, so you know, any of your cooling needs from small to mighty, you could hit us up over at MindFULL too. It's not MindFULL Cooling, no. It's another company, but I know someone that can hook you up there too. But the problem with the Lasco fan was that the breeze was warm. What you going to do if the air hot? Like, you understand how breeze works? It takes the cool air, blows it across the person, and usually that cool air would evaporate the sweat on your skin and send the heat that was on your skin away from you in the evaporated sweat that leaves you. But what is to happen when the breeze blowing hot? You turn on the fan and it's like you turn up an air fryer. That is of no solution to me. I don't like being inside an air fryer. That is no fun. Lasco fan was doing nothing. It was recirculating that devil's breath air. So no thank you for the Lasco fan. The breeze just wasn't working. But let's look at what the meteorologist was talking about with that heat. Meteorologist, TNT in peak heat season. Let's look at what this peak heat season means. Why is it so hot? This is the big question most Trinbagonians have been asking over the past few days. According to meteorologist Gary Benjamin, Sunday was the warmest day for the year, with 34.7 degrees Celsius being recorded at Piaco and 32.6 degrees Celsius at Crown Point, Tobago. Listen, this is something that I genuinely don't believe. I have spent some time on both of our sister isles here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I know that they say Trinidad gets hotter than Tobago. But there's something about the Tobago sun. Something about that Tobago sun that is just a different quality of sun you get over there. The sun is exquisite. I don't know if it's less pollution in the air to block the sun or what exactly it is. But when you go to Tobago and you get that Tobago black, the Tobago sun brings out the melanin on your skin. I come back from Tobago glistening and shining like a brand new 1 cent. That Tobago sun is different. Just imagine all that sun wasted because I wanted some work done on my house. Oh gosh, poor thing. I live on a hill with sea breeze, so probably that helped. Well, yeah, that would be a big blessing if that was the case. Open it up and brush and oil the motor. Hey, my problem wasn't that my Lasco fan was running too slow. I know how to keep the Lasco fan running. I know you need the oil every now and again, and you put the oil and you put the grease in the right places, and if things, you get your WD to get him going. And I understand how to get the Lasco fan blowing. The problem wasn't the rate of breeze, it was the temperature of breeze. Just worldly problems. Yeah, right. You know, that I don't like those kind of comments. I don't know if you're coming at it with a spiritual perspective, but people who speak like that are speaking over spiritual, and they're dishonest about the reality of the world. Those are just worldly problems. You tell someone while they're baking alive, they're going to ignore whatever other spiritual aspects you're trying to bring to them. You have to meet people at the reality of the physical world. That just worldly problems. It doesn't work when those worldly problems have people up to their neck. I'm drowning. I'm swallowing water. My lungs are becoming filled with fluid. And you tell me, well, that's just a worldly problem, you know. Those things would be soon passing. Yes, I know. I could feel my life passing from me. Your advice does nothing in the moment. Alright, well, you'd have to explain the context a little better. And I'm well relaxed. In case you can't tell, I'm well relaxed. Don't be rude. The mute button works well. Gosh, I smelling them boys already and school ain't open yet. Oh my goodness, Nisi, you see that? Like the school boys when they reach the teenage years. There's the big man kind of scent they try to go with. But there's a kind of, I don't know if you all experienced this before. There's a kind of sunburnt, frowsy, musty scent that children give off. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. The primary school children, they aren't yet at this stage where the hormones come in and make the sweat smell like a big man or a ram goat. So you know, it's not really that kind of super pungent, but there's a kind of burnt primary school scent. Not a very appealing scent. Anyway, the hottest temperature ever recorded in Trinidad was in September 1990 when there was a high of 36.5 degrees Celsius. In a telephone interview with the Express yesterday, Benjamin said this country is experiencing its heat season with the peak happening now. So, by the way, we still haven't experienced the hottest day. 36.5 degrees happened in 1990. And if what we got Sunday was 34.7, you're telling me it could get a whole 2 degrees hotter? And just so you know, the heat season isn't done yet. However, the heat has been intensified these days because of two systems which recently occurred. Tropical wave Franklin, which is now a hurricane north of Hispaniola and heading to Bermuda, and tropical wave Gert, which petered out in the Leeward Island. Now, you see what happens with these hurricanes. What happens with these hurricanes? Both of these hurricanes, the meteorologist was explaining this, both of these hurricanes were in the northern hemisphere. If you know the world map, if you could picture the world map of where Trinidad is right there, I know, my other studio had a nice map of the Caribbean right here. I have to get that map back. I have to get some work needs to be done to get that map back up. But if you understand the image of the Caribbean, with Trinidad, picture it, Trinidad right here, Tobago a little bit there, and the rest of the Lesser Antilles and going across the Greater Antilles on the top there. And what happened is a few storms passed to the north. And what happens when those storms pass to the north? They're spinning, and those storms suck in wind. So all of the clouds that were over us were sucked in to those weather systems to the north. Clouds play a very important role. Clouds, blessed night, Willie Bang. Clouds help to shield the sun. Clouds help to shield the sun. So when those weather systems Willie Bang, the starting time is 9. But on occasion, like today, there were some other occurrences that pushed back the starting time, and I found myself, at around the 9:30 starting time today. But the starting time is 9. That is the starting time. Blessings on the day before Independence Day. Yes, blessings to you too. So those weather systems sucked out the clouds, and now the sun is just bearing down overhead. And bear in mind, if you don't listen to the flat earthers and you believe that the earth is round and a nice sphere, what happens with that sphere is during the summer in the northern hemisphere, the earth is on a little tilt. So the sun is actually technically not really closer, but more overhead the northern hemisphere. That's why it's summer in the northern hemisphere in the first place. So we are already getting more direct sun, and then these weather systems suck out the cloud cover, and then when they suck out the cloud cover, the next thing they do was suck in hot air from the southern hemisphere. So all that hot air coming out from Guyana and Venezuela and those other places in the southern hemisphere was sucked right into the equatorial region by us. So we lose the cloud cover and suck in hot southern air, and now we're just out there being baked by the sun and air fried by the hot air. That's what was going on over the weekend. And just so you know, this heat season goes on through September. As we spoke about, the hottest day recorded in Trinidad was in 1990, and that happened in September. So we should do like the Emirates and make our cloud seeding. We could do that, but I'm not sure how effective things like that may be in equatorial island climate like we have. For all you know, we may make clouds and all of them blow over and end up in the Gulf of Paria and are of no use to us anyway. I born in September, bro. I might have human torch powers. Well, I guess we'd find out. We'd find out, eh? Well prepared for a little 40 degrees in September. I am not prepared for 40 degrees. I'm sorry, I don't want 40 degrees. You know, when people talk about winter, I regularly say that I am a man. I believe I was bred for the tropics. I am a tropical man. I have melanated skin. The melanin, you know, helps. I usually tell my wife is some shades lighter than me, and you know, she talks about sunburn and, you know, put on some sunscreen and stuff. I say, I don't need any sunscreen. God gave me sunscreen, you know. He gave me proper melanin in my skin. I don't need the sunscreen business. But, like, I mean, are we out here to test the limitations of our melanin? I do not want to see what is the breaking point of my melanin. My melanin has been screaming. He has been overworking. I don't know how much more. I don't know how much more I can take out of my melanin. Good night, Beauty Cupid. But you know, just so you know, this whole bread for the tropics business is actually a sensible thing when you think about it, because melanin actually makes it difficult for melanated people in colder climates. Colder climates, by and large, colder climates get less sun. You know that you need sun, right? You need your, what's it from the sun, vitamin D. And when you have melanated skin, it's more difficult for the sun to penetrate through your skin, so you actually need more sunlight to get the same amount of vitamin D. So if you're a melanated person in the cold where you know you aren't getting a lot of sunlight, you could find yourself getting depressed and getting down in the winter doldrums because you're lacking vitamin D. Right now, Saudi Arabia is clicking some crazy high numbers, my friend said. You mean in heat? I wouldn't doubt that, you know. I mean, Saudi Arabia is not only on the border, they are a desert. Like, if it wasn't for oil, no one was really going to be staying in Saudi Arabia that much. Saudi Arabia is on the brink of a desert. So, clicking high numbers is pretty normal for the Saudis. All right. That's some geography. But we're getting into politics, because there was a bit of interesting political movement happening in the East over the local government elections, and now we are seeing some of the further fallout from it, and some serious questions are being raised. Let's jump into this. How the Valencia West was won. At the conclusion of local government elections on August 14, the People's National Movement suffered a surprising loss at the Valencia West electoral district. As the Valencia West electoral district slipped from its grasp and into the hands of the United National Congress. This outcome has left the PNM Sangre Grande executive puzzled, considering the party's steadfast determination and resources to retain this seat. The Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, an area usually seen as a marginal municipal corporation, returned to the UNC. The party won 6 of the 8 electoral districts in that corporation. PNM officials have vowed to unravel the underlying factors that may have contributed to the unexpected UNC victory. First-time candidate Neil De Silva defeated PNM's Kiva Isaac. Isaac's campaign was based on creating more efficient local government. With the rollout of the government's proposed reform legislation, De Silva said he was not surprised by his win. The people wanted this change. So, Grandy more overwhelmingly went over to the UNC. Grandy and those in the Deep East, they were like, we understand that we have been marginal for some time now, but we do not like what the PNM representatives are giving us, so we are going to give the UNC more power in our district. And many of the people spoke about the reasons, etc. they did that, and one of the things you saw many people talking about was that they wanted to see the people's face. During a visit to Valencia West District on Wednesday, Newsday spoke to Brandon Charles, the owner of Brandon's Minimart. He was sitting among a group of men outside his business on Valencia Old Road. The only thing we're looking forward to in the coming years is actually seeing our councillors' face. We don't just want to see them for election time, and even during election, they would come out once or twice and send out a car with a recording of them encouraging us to vote. We don't want that. We didn't even know the councillor before. We don't know if the person was a he or a she or identify as a they. We don't know. Listen. That he, she or identify as a they is going to come back to haunt these people in Sangre Grande. Listen to what I'm saying. Take note of the he, she or they comment. It's going to return to haunt the Grande residents. We'd get there. He went on to explain some of the concerns residents have been raising for the past decade. The water, the roads, they have been lacking stuff. Brent Paul, another resident, said, we just need to see his face. He must walk the streets and hear the conversations with his own ears. Just like how the media here talking to us, he should have to be here listening. Good. Good. That's what the Grande people wanted. They wanted to actually see their representatives. They found that the representatives who were there before, the PNM representative, they weren't seeing them. So they switched. And what that did is it distorted the balance in the Sangre Grande Corporation. Now the Sangre Grande Corporation is much more comfortably a UNC corporation, and UNC can make those decisions as a political party. Bear in mind, when you vote, you select who goes in there, but they go in there and make the decisions that they want to make. You're hoping that they go in there and do the things that you want them to do, but they don't actually have to. Uproar at Grande. We want Tony. United National Congress activists have expressed disappointment that former National Security Minister Joseph Tony has been bypassed for chair of the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. There is also contention with the resignation of UNC activist Marsha Walker and her call on opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar to resign. We'll get into that. Tony was tipped to be SGRC chairman. He was tipped to be the SGRC chairman. Very likely that would have been in the run-up to the election. Oh, y'all like this guy? This is the guy we would put, come vote for us. We're going to put this guy. Y'all like this guy? We're going to put this guy. He was tipped to be the SGRC chairman, but that changed when the UNC circulated its list of aldermen choices and his name was not there. Oops. You can't change your vote now, just by the way. Instead, the UNC selected Angad Arju Singh and Susan S. Holder to be aldermen. A letter signed by some 35 key activists in the Toko Sangre Grande region dated August 27th was sent to Persad-Bissessar, in which they expressed their disappointment in the non-selection of Tony. The activists asked Persad-Bissessar to reconsider her alderman choice, as they stated Tony is the best man for the job given his tireless work in Toko Sangre Grande, his background, experience and integrity he brings to office. You see, this is the common trick that many political parties do. They use the grassroots activists to bring out the votes But when the votes have been brought out, they bring in their elitists, their nepotistic choices, and stick them in there, and you just have to suck salt. We're going on. The letter claimed that both these men are members of the LGBTQ society. And while they have no problems with the individuals, they have a tremendous problem in defending Prasad Visesa's choice. The Toko Sangre Grande constituents are not ready or willing to be forced into subjection of this type of leadership. We are still very much a religious third world nation. These gentlemen animosity towards the administration of Sangre Grande Regional Corporation is notorious. What are we saying to the nation when we appoint these individuals to high office? Is this where we are forcing the country to go? I find it nearly humorous, to be very honest with you, because this has actually been how many of the LGBTQ movement ideas have been brought onto the populations. In nearly no population where those votes have been cast, if you look at the survey, most of those populations were almost always against some of these things. But when you vote for your leaders and your leaders are for it, you vote for them already. Your vote only mattered on the election day. You could only write a letter and beg with Mrs. Prasad Visesa, please, please, and she can tell you no. And what are you going to do then? What are you going to do after the vote is already cast and you no longer have a say in the matter? What then? We citizens really have no power, yes? You see, this is where understanding politics comes in very handily. And why I regularly see one of the worst things you could do is give a party a safe seat. If the UNC knew that they had to struggle and fight for Sangre Grande, some of the decisions they make would have to only line up with what the people in Grande wanted. But the moment the UNC recognizes they could be comfortable in Grande, the UNC has an MP who is a member of that community also. Do you think the district that he's an MP for is particularly pro-LGBTQ? I don't think so. Knowing Trinidad and Tobago's general socio-cultural makeup, I don't think so. But they are pro-UNC. It's a UNC safe seat. So UNC could put whoever they want and they're going to be voted for. Problems with those safe seats. To be honest, the only people that have the power or resources to fight politicians is the 1%, but we always bad talking them. Not the only people, actually. We do have some of that power. We do have some of that power. There is some power in voting. It's just unfortunate that the vast majority of people, they are NPCs. The vast majority of people, they don't think through their voting decisions. People were voting in this election about getting guns. People were voting in this election about getting local government reform. Neither of which were affected by who you select to be your councillor in the region. You want more voting power? destroy the safe seats. But we know in Trinidad and Tobago that's kind of wishful thinking, but that's how it's done. You want to... So Miss Marsha Walker, a UNC activist, has been talking recently. Walker to Kamala, I love you, but time to go. The UNC's Glencoe Goodwood Laperta candidate in the 2023 local government elections, Marsha Walker, has warned opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar she's at risk of ruining her legacy if she doesn't step down as political leader of the opposition political party. Now, I don't know what legacy Mrs. Persad-Bissessar is going to ruin. How much worse would her legacy get? What would be the tarnish on her legacy? If Mrs. Persad-Bissessar wins never another election, what? So what? She's still the first female prime minister. She is still the UNC leader. She's running the UNC the way how nearly any UNC leader runs the UNC. I don't see a tarnish happening on her record really and truly there. But the problem that Miss Walker is facing there is that Mrs. Persad-Bissessar has no push to move. There's no incentive for her to move. The UNC has its safe seats and it's going to remain with its safe seats. The day Kamala go and UNC bring in fresh faces, it's over for Rowley. It's according to who the fresh faces are. It's according to who the fresh faces are. Fresh faces isn't an automatic win. That's not true. Where are you going to get those fresh faces from? Who are those fresh faces going to be? Trinidad is a small place. The faces may be fresh for a day, but people will recognize who they are eventually. Yes, we need fresh politicians. And are fresh politicians automatically going to be an improvement? Like, where do we get that assumption from? Nathan, you want to be a fresh face? Well, my face a little stale already, so I don't know how fresh a face I will be, but I don't have much interest in going into that kind of political partisan system. You have to toe the line when you're inside there, otherwise they remove you. That's how it's done. You don't get to go up to be the candidate for a member of parliament in a region based on being a good activist in the region. You get to be the candidate for that region based on being loyal to the political leader. So if I want to be a fresh face as a member of parliament inside the United National Congress, I need to go meet Mrs. Persad-Bissessar and start to shine some shoes. Very likely. I need to convince her. However I convince her, she's the one I need to convince. So it's not actually about me going and putting work on in the grassroots area. Grandy, they're complaining that the people that were actually putting out the work in the grassroots were sidestepped and overlooked when it came the time to appoint people into positions of power. And what you're gonna do? That's the nature of the political system. And yet, the idea though that automatically speaking, fresh faces are automatically going to be better than the old faces, I don't buy that. I don't believe that for a moment. I would like to hear what the words that come out of those fresh faces' mouths. That's what I would like to hear. Not just fresh faces, because really and truly, if fresh faces just enter the same system, very likely they would be trained by the old faces and they will be fresh faces doing the same old things. And some of them may be fresh faces with freshly emptied pockets. At least the old faces, their pockets are already kind of stuffed. How much more they go thief? The fresh faces, they need to steal up to the level of mansion. They have yet to build their mansion, so they need to steal that much still. I mean, the idea that fresh faces are automatically better, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I do agree with Miss Walker though. I do agree that if the UNC wants to do better, they need to change their leadership. I think that's obvious. I agree with that. I think that's an obvious thing. The country basically has been saying that for some time now. And I think if we continue as we're going, where we just have Dr. Rowley and Kamala Prasad Bisesa, these two septuagenarians fighting for power, continuing at the top of their respective parties, what we're going to see is the same thing we saw in this local government election: a low voter turnout, and the next election may have a lower voter turnout and an even lower voter turnout. And maybe the next election, that might be to the benefit of the country. A low voter turnout is signaling, at least to the political landscape, that maybe a third party that could come in there and coalesce these dissident voices may have a chance. Ali Trini says right now they need to get some qualifications for politicians other than who know you. And what do you think those qualifications would be? What qualifications can you put there for politicians that would make sure that those politicians are honest, that those politicians do the right thing? What qualifications do you think are necessary for that? To me, just the idea of putting qualifications there is actually encouraging more nepotism. Because here's what's going to happen if you put qualifications there. One, if you put qualifications there, very likely the people that decide what the qualifications are going to be the politicians. And very likely those politicians are going to put qualifications there. Qualifications that require some money, generally speaking, to attain those qualifications. I believe the co-host is making some noise out there. Some money that is required to attain those qualifications. And if money is required to attain the qualifications, very likely the children of the old cronies are going to be the ones most qualified. Many people don't recognize that by asking for credentialism, asking for qualifications, that's actually what you're doing. Who do you think would most likely get a qualification that needed 6 years of education paid for? Not the children of the rich. Credentialism and needing those qualifications is actually a technique that some of the wealthy use to select some positions for their children. If I know that I am going to have enough money to send all 4 of my children, if I have 4 children, to 6 years of higher education, they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to, they could go to school till they're 26 because they know daddy has enough money to cover the expenses. And after they go to school till 26, they're now qualified for a job, and only they are qualified for that job. Because you as a poor person, you can't afford to send your child to school till they're 26. At some point in time, this little kid has to go out there and start to earn some money. We don't have that kind of privilege. So by adding those credentials and qualifications many times, we actually corner some of those things for the wealthier. Rian Prima says it have no qualifications for integrity, and that's what the politicians lack. Facts. Facts. Teflon Dan says we need to get you a national TV program or something so the wider public can hear you. Maybe. Good night. I'm thinking, isn't PEP a fairly new party? New faces? Well, I think one of the main problems that the PEP faces is that the leader isn't exactly a new face. So they can't really totally claim the new face label. The leader's face has been plastered on other political symbols before. And then the technique used placed them for some time into a UNC proxy party position. The PNM hate, like, coming into the political landscape in Trinidad and Tobago, and the political strategy you use is developing hate against the PNM and against the political leader of the PNM, that's a UNC technique. And if you use that technique, most of the people you would get would be either UNC members or former UNC members. You aren't going to get some of those people who don't necessarily have a personal vendetta or hatred against Dr. Rowley and the PNM. They don't hate them like they personally killed a dog or something like that. They don't have that hatred. So when you use that technique, you're aiming at the UNC's market. I don't think that's a good idea for a third party in Trinidad and Tobago. PP get bad licks up by me. I don't think anyone has confidence in them. I don't trust their vibe at all, and I've interacted with the rep in person. RL says PP keep putting solutions but never a plan on how the government earning that money to pay for it. Wide Leather says new faces are fine, but do we want greenhorns with no track record? You see, that's part of the problem too. That's part of the problem to someone who has never done anything like that. The idea that they were just getting there and automatically be able to do that. Tobago did some of that. Do you think Tobago is doing better off now with their new face, or do you think they were better off with the old faces? If I were to do a survey, I may guess that survey would say more Tobagonians are regretful, like change their minds from happy to regret, than change their minds from sad to happy over the new face. That's what I would guess. So the idea that new faces somehow automatically mean a positive thing on the political landscape, I don't buy it. The new faces idea, or the youth idea that, if we get young people in there, the young people are going to do the right thing. No, I don't necessarily believe so. When I hear the ideas that many young people have, they're disastrous, they're foolish. They sound like they're going to crash the country very quickly if they're given the reins. Many of them are obsessed with communism or socialism style things. They think that they need to get a lot of power into the government hands before they could do anything. I don't want a young person doing those kind of things inside of governance. So no, that's not a good thing to me. Jumping into a little bit of crime news here as we swiftly move along. We're not doing a super long live tonight. Prince Swanee seeks asylum in the United States. Dancehall artist claims police threats. Terrell Swan, also known as Prince Swanee in the dancehall entertainment industry, is seeking asylum in the United States. He's claiming that police officers from the Western Division Gang Unit have been issuing threats on his life, harassing him and attempting to implicate him in multiple homicides, shootings, and woundings in the Carnage area over time. The system is against me, and basically I'm fearful for my life. People saying I die. I think that one was Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. People saying I die and police constantly monitoring me. Something seems off, he told the Express from an undisclosed location in the United States yesterday. He said the police would pass by my home in Carnage and make remarks, and when they do not see me, they would tamper with my vehicles, and there was an instance they slashed my tires, said Swan. Swan said a few weeks ago he left Trinidad and flew to the United States, where he spoke to US authorities about his situation. I decided to apply for asylum because I cannot stay in Trinidad anymore. The hearing of my asylum claim is next year, March, he said. He said he thought a complaint to the Police Complaints Authority following a shooting incident in late June would have deterred police from coming at him. But the next day, they came to my house in Carnage early in the morning and telling my aunt she could go Police Complaints Authority. I don't know who told them I went there, but something not right, said Swan. It's actually possible to get asylum based on our level 3 caution alert by the United States. I am sure many people would look kind of cynically at what he's saying there. But I actually think he may have grounds. I actually think he may have grounds for asylum. Gang affiliates applying for asylum now White Leather says. Well, he may be White Leather, he may be, but that does not mean that his claims are wrong. If someone is gang affiliated, I am not saying that Prince Swanee is. I am saying if someone is gang affiliated, someone just out there in the ether, some random person out there, they're gang affiliated. But the police are also gang affiliated. And the police attempt to use their knowledge of the workings of gangs to make money. So police would put up various gang affiliates. They would put them up to be killed. They would put them up to change the power structure of certain gangs. They would attempt to change the leadership to their benefit. They would attempt to change the territory to their benefit. The police try to orchestrate the gangs to their financial benefit. That does happen. And that's kind of the allegation he's making. If I am gang affiliated, but the police, through their own machinations, are trying to kill me or put me up for crimes that I did not commit, isn't it a rightful claim of asylum? Even if I am gang affiliated? And the claims that the young man is making, there, they seem to carry some credence. He's speaking specifically about complaints he made to the Police Complaints Authority. It's not like they arrested him in Trinidad and Tobago on some suspicion of gang activity and he just got out on bail and ran away to the United States and did this. He went through the legal framework in Trinidad and Tobago also. He went to the Police Complaints Authority. Swan's manager, Michael Borneo of Z-Tech Entertainment, who lives in the United States and spoke on Swan's behalf, said all he wants to do is fight for his life. It's a corrupted system and he can't receive any help there. So the best he can do is fly abroad for assistance. Is it not a corrupted system? And you see, things like this, if the system is corrupt, what that does is it makes it even more difficult for people, if they are interested in leaving some of those lives of crime, to leave. It makes it more difficult for them to leave. Let's say that some person, not Prince Swanee, but some guy out there really started off with some gang affiliations and he's trying to clear his life of that. But the police know that there's some money inside of this. And the police are trying to make it impossible for him to leave those connections. What is that person to do? Remain here and allow the police to end them up dead? After singing all them gunman song, no, he's running. He promoted a life of violence and now is running from the consequences. Okay, so if he sang those songs, are you saying that it is his portion to stay in Trinidad and allow corrupt police to kill him? I don't get it. I am not defending gunman music. I am not saying that he should have made gunman music. I'm not saying that we should make gunman music in the country. But having made gunman music, does that mean that your punishment should be remaining and allowing corrupt police to kill you? I don't get that. I understand that, live by the gun, die by the gun, and there are consequences. Yeah. No, but certain things come with that choice. And one of those certain things is allowing corrupt police to kill you. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. Is it that he should allow corrupt police to kill him? That no, he shouldn't. And listen, the gunman tune that he was making, he was talking about gangs in the streets. And maybe he might be bad enough to fight up with the gangs in the streets. But now he's alleging that he's battling gangs that have legal backing behind them. And these gangs are moving just as corruptly, just as immorally as the gangs in the streets, but they have legal backing. So what is he to do now? To show he real bad, he is supposed to stay and let police kill him to show that he's really bad, or to live with the consequences of his music. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, Dr. Rowley spoke about crime and criminality, and I remember in 2010 he said, if a government cannot stop murders and violent crime, they are part of the problem. So Dr. Rowley is part of the crime problem and part of the murder problem, according to his own words. So does that mean that Dr. Rowley now should put his life at risk, and he should allow himself to be killed by gangsters because he's part of the problem too? What? Tony says you see, he could run from it, but all the other young men who are in the same position have to stay. That's the reality of life in some cases. That's the reality of life. Dr. Rowley could hire private security to guard him while his decisions cause me to be at risk. That's life. That's life. Am I saying that I wish then Dr. Rowley should not have any guards around him, any armed guards, and he should go and walk through the hotspots in Trinidad and Tobago to risk his life? What? I just find it hypocritical that you can promote one thing and run when it puts you in jeopardy. Well, what he is saying, Tony the Ambassador, what he is saying is not that the gangs in the streets are after him. It's the police. He wasn't promoting corrupt police. Hey, my friend and I are currently in an argument. Can you say, I am not going to say that. Bye. Like, I honestly don't understand that reasoning. How it's like saying but the reason he's looking for asylum, his asylum claim isn't based on the 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, or anybody else coming after him. It isn't a gang-based thing. It's police are the problem. That's why he is asking for asylum. You see, like, I don't understand this. Can you imagine the frustrating situation? Well, he's alleging that it's actually the police that shut up his vehicle. There is that claim. 2 months ago, a BMW car with associates of Swan was allegedly shut up by police, and 2 occupants were wounded in carnage. Swan's lawyer, Kristen Williams, told The Express that following the incident, the entertainer made an official complaint to the PC that he believed police officers were targeting him. Swan stated in a voice message acquired by The Express from a while ago that shortly after filing the complaint, police officers visited his aunt's home in Carnage. Police came by me early this morning about 5 o'clock. They were not from Carnage, and they were attempting to enter my aunt's compound. And she replied, hey, you know you can't enter there. And the officer asked, why you don't go police complaints? And that rings a bell. She wanted to know why you would say that so. So I don't know if somebody in police complaints was talking or something. Swan's lawyer of Quantum Legal wrote to the DPP Roger Gaspard on August 22nd, raising serious concerns over the operations of the Western Division Gang Unit in relation to their client. So are you telling me that even if I was affiliated in some illegal activity, now the police are acting as a criminal enterprise, trying to end my life? But because I was affiliated, now what I am supposed to do is sit down and let the police kill me? What? And how are we saying that what we want is the ghetto youth to stay and die, but what we want is for those evil police to die? Why don't we wish, if we're wishing live by the gun, die by the gun, why don't wish the police that are doing the same die by the gun too? You're wishing he dies by the gun. Where's the wishing for the police that are doing the same to die by the gun too? How come you're only wishing it on the poor ghetto youth? How come that's where the wish comes from? And you know, this kind of happens everywhere. This is how criminality is handled in these colonial thinking countries like ours. Countries that see it as the authorities are always the authority. Haiti police probe killings of parishioners who were led by a pastor into gang territory. The director of Haiti's national police vowed Monday to hold accountable those who encouraged hundreds of parishioners to take up machetes and sticks over the weekend to try and rid a community of gang members, only to be fatally shot by them. Police Chief France Elbe said the group's religious leader, identified as Mackerel Zidor, participated in the protest Saturday and was accompanied by unidentified people. Elbe said the group drew gunfire from gang members and that multiple people were killed and several kidnapped, though he did not provide numbers. So, Haiti is now controlled by gangs. Haiti is now controlled by gangs. The capital is controlled by gangs. You finish make noise? Tell the people good night. Yeah, Haiti is controlled presently by gangs. Some people from a church, the church seems a bit eccentric if we're being honest, but some people from a church decided that they want to do something personally about these gangs. They're going to go into a community and rid the community of the gangs. Unfortunately, like Trinidad and Tobago, the regular citizens in Haiti don't have guns. I am sure that that police chief would have raided that church, and if they had illegal guns, they would have taken those guns. And the church, in an attempt to rid the community of the gangs, went into the community with sticks and cutlasses. And well, you don't bring a stick and a cutlass to a gunfight. That's just reality. You don't bring sticks and cutlasses to gunfights, honey. They don't work. So what's expected to happen, happened. And now, the police want to investigate and bring to justice the pastor. They want to bring to justice the pastor. You notice, they're not going to raid the gangs. They're not going to raid the gangs. They're going for the pastor. The person who attempted to get rid of the gangs. And we're here in Trinidad and Tobago, watching a young man who may have had a legitimate criminal past. I don't know. He may have had it. But whether you had a criminal past or not, it is not okay for the police to act like a gang. And if someone is complaining, even someone with a criminal past, about the police acting like a gang, the reaction we should have isn't it's good for him because he was a criminal. It's, we don't want criminals as police. I am more worried about the criminal police than about Swanee possibly having gang affiliations. What do you think harms our country more? A Western Division gang unit that is acting criminally as a criminal gang, or a Trinidad artist who may have gang affiliations? Which one is worse for the country? We don't want criminals, period. Yes, I agree. We don't. But which one is worse for the country? Because let's not be dishonest here. One is measurably worse for the country. Can you admit that? Because I regularly find the police apologists don't like admitting these things. One is obviously worse for the country. Give me the police because the bandit have no remorse, And you think the police have remorse? What are you saying, Sam Nessifrit, right? Sam Nessifrit? You think the criminal police have remorse? How do you think the bandits with no remorse get the guns? So you understand the insanity of this. Here's what you're saying. The gang that is allowing the criminals to raid our homes and murder people, because that gang doesn't do it themselves, we'd allow that gang to exist. But we'd run down the murderers. So so we have a snake in our forest that is laying little snake eggs. Now the big snake does not attack children. The big snake do attack children. But the big snake creates all of the babies and facilitates the babies that attack the children. And we are saying what we need to do is keep chopping up all the baby snakes we find. The baby snakes are the problem, not the big mother snake. The mother snake is not the problem. We need to keep chopping up the baby snakes. What? I don't get it. How does that make sense? Can you wait a few hours to care for your child before you talk on TikTok? Thank you, Nisi. Thank you, Nisi. Out of place. So the big snake is not the problem. The baby snakes are the problem. Definitely all law enforcement, not only exercising criminal activities, is detrimental for all of us. I'm not saying just detrimental add royalties foods. I am not asking about detrimental. I am asking a comparative question here. Is one worse than the other? That's what I'm asking. I am not just asking about if it's detrimental. I know it's all detrimental. But is one measurably worse than the other? And in that tone, should one be drawing more ire than the other? I believe personally, a police that is convicted for a crime should do twice the time. That's my belief. Because you were given a position of great power to stop criminality. And if you are facilitating criminality, one criminal police is possibly worse than 50 criminals in the regular society. One criminal police worse than 50 criminals. If we could have released 20 criminals to catch one criminal police, in the long run, that may have done better for the country. If we could have continued going through that process. The criminal law enforcement is the reason that the gangsters could lay hits from the jail. The reason that it seems like 3/4 of the gang leaders in Trinidad and Tobago, when you hear them talk about a gang and a gang functioning here and a gang functioning there, and the leader is behind bars. What? How you mean the leader is behind bars? How you leading a criminal gang on the streets from behind bars? Well, how you do that is through corrupt law enforcement. And no. Let's chase down all those fellas who throwing up number signs. The 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, all of them. Chase them down to no end. But the guys that facilitate the running of gangs from behind the prison walls, no, leave them. Because the problem is them Trinidad artists. You see them Trinidad artists and singing, they fully done, so them fully done fellas are the real issue. I agree, but we can't do both. No, we can't do both really and truly. We cannot actually do both. We have to do one before the other. That's how it works. You cannot stop street level criminal activity when you have law enforcement criminals. It doesn't work. I have lived in hotspots. The police send a raiding party of 30 vehicles and check the 3 known drug blocks that had a shootout the day before and find nothing. Can you imagine that? Wow, they find nothing. How did they find nothing? Well, you would find nothing when all of the blocks know when you're coming before you come. So then we'd have nothing, not one thing they found. And I'm talking about my own experience. And then the senior officer on the scene would see me living here and come to ask me, oh, yeah, you see anything suspicious recently? Bro, go from here and leave me alone, please. Go from here and leave me alone. I'm a family man. You are trying to put me up. Do people not understand what used to happen in the days of the mafia? Yeah. So if we want to solve the ground level, we have to solve the criminals. That's the reality. We can't solve one without the other. The criminals at that level, at the law enforcement level, have to be gotten rid of if we want to get rid of the ground level. That's just fact. And looking at a ground level guy, a guy that we presume to be ground level, let me put it that way, a guy that we presume to be ground level, complaining about corrupt policing, having gone through the legal routes locally and fleeing internationally complaining about it, for our response to be that you look for that, to me, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. Like, I understand those guys that die on the street, they're living that life. But that could never make me look at corrupt police lightly. Never. Never. If you live in some of these communities, you understand that some of the people in some of these lives ended up there because of corrupt police. Now, as an adult, you have responsibility for all of your actions. It's on you. But in many cases, corrupt police had a direct influence in some of these guys ending up in crime in the first place. And now, we'd say good for you. Stay and let the police kill you and have nothing to say on the police actions. How does that add up? And if you are in enough of my lives, you'd know that I am not a criminal apologist. I am not one that believes that poverty causes crime. I believe vice versa. I regularly say it. I think crime breeds poverty. Crime pushes poverty into communities. And I don't believe that every person who is stealing from a grocery, it's just because, they're so needy and they're in need of something. And what we need to do is give them the up. I think there are some people that are criminally minded. I agree. And what we don't need any more bleeding hearts for them. I agree. Yes, you always have to deal with the heads, the leaders, and administrators in order to be effective. Thank you. White Letter says Abu Bakr was a cop. That's true. He made sense highlighting it, but it have many other men want him dead. I have no doubt about that. And listen, I don't doubt that part of his reason for wanting to seek asylum and leave Trinidad and Tobago is because there are other men that want him dead. That's a familiar trope in the American gangster rap scene. The American drill rap gangster rap scene that has been going on for some time now and has seen many young men lose their lives. That has been a common trope. After you get popular in Chicago singing your drill gangster rap, you fly out. Because after a while, after you become known and you insult quite a few people, dead friends, there are lots of people that want you dead too. That's true. And many of them want to fly out for that. That's true. That's just the reality of it. And for the guys dying daily in the streets, I hope they could look at some of this and see that some of the men that they may be dying for may be men that will leave them alone to suffer if given the opportunity. Many of these guys talking about they love the hood, they love the hood. They only poison the ghetto. They poison the ghetto. All of the bad criminal activity they do it in the ghetto. And then as soon as they make enough money, they leave the ghetto and go and raise their family in a gated community. And you know, they wouldn't open a block in their gated community. They would still keep their block running by the granny house, by the auntie house inside of the ghetto. So these guys don't love the ghetto. Don't believe them. They're liars. They don't love the ghetto. They don't love the hood. They don't have love for the ghetto and love for the poor people. They abuse it and steal from it. That's true. That's true. And understand that. I hope that the ghetto youths that look could see this. I hope so. But I don't believe the corrupt police love the ghetto either, because they facilitate the abuse of the hood constantly too. All right, people. That's all I have for now. We aren't staying too long this evening. That's all I have for now. Any further questions or comments inside of the live? I wonder if Swanee becomes a full US citizen or refugee, if his songs will still be about Trinidad streets, Trinidad gang life. I wonder if it would still be about that. Just as much drug use in West Morings, but nowhere near the number of arrests. To some extent true. To some extent true. Now, always bear in mind, a lot of what draws attention to drugs, isn't the drug use itself, it's violence. So yes, I agree that that many wealthy communities are given a buy on some of those things, but in some poor communities, part of the reason the drugs draw attention is there's a heightened level of violence and petty theft also. So there is that. Ad royalties, food says, how we really bringing change is my question in the law enforcement. That's a very good question. For me, I always say cultural change is the key. That's why I talk here. Cultural change is the key. Let's change how people think. Let's change the mindset that some people have. And hope, because at the end of the day, police exist from regular members of our society. If we could have enough of a cultural change, those things, politics is downstream from culture, the saying goes. So if the culture demands something, the politicians generally bend to the culture's whims. TTPS shouldn't be the arbiters of who gets a pass, lock up everybody or nobody. It's how the law works. They can't lock up everybody. It's just literally, physically impossible. Literally. All right, people. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow evening. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Tomorrow is Tobago Talks. We're talking to Tobago tomorrow as usual. So be sure to jump in. That the Tobago Talks is usually very lively, and I might have to take a double-sized coffee on Tobago Talks. You know, Tobago Talks, the Tobagonians regularly drag on the talk because there's a lot to talk about. So if you'd be interested in that, jump in tomorrow in the next Mindful Live, starting around 9. Now tomorrow is Wednesday. If you don't see me 9, hold on till 9:15. You know, let's give each other some latitude in this whole thing. But I'll see you guys then. It was nice. As I said, I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Spring. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Peace. Hold it down. Hit that like button. Share that video if you're looking at this again on YouTube. Yeah, you who stayed to the end of the YouTube video, you share it to someone.